Big change, Martin. A big change. Oh yeah. Big change. Big change. Big change in the weather.
Actually, it was a very cold morning coming in here. Today, when I was coming here, it was freezing. It was the first time I ever found my head so cold. It was very cold. I think we're going to get snow.
Hot whiskies do sorts it out, but.
Hot whiskies, yeah, and a nice little jumper, you know.
Yeah. But all you young people will be a toy jumper just to show off the old...
That's it, show off the old muscles, like,
yeah,
you know.
I hear you. I know what it's about, yeah.
Once it's dry, we don't mind anymore.
This is Abbeyfeale. At one time, there was 32 pubs in this town. The pubs, I think, have halved or more than halved. The socialising doesn't go on here like it did when I was young.
Like in this town one time, was there 50 or 60 pubs?
Yeah, one time.
Was there, Flor? 41 pubs. 41 pubs here. What's here now? Is there's only 10 pubs here now. No, I don't drink. I don't go into pubs. Do you know? But simple as that.
I'm down here 18 years now, and I suppose the towns you know, and you know more about this than I will, Dennis. At one stage, my wife was telling me there was 52 pubs in this small town.
64.
64
pubs in this town back in the 70s, 80s. 64 pubs.
Abbeyfeale is going downhill slowly. There are a lot of houses closed. There's nobody in the pubs hardly because of the drinking laws. And there are a lot of places closing.
Compared to where the town was.
And now they're talking about bypassing the town again.
They're talking about that.
And if they do that, the town will be dead.
I mean, rural Ireland has got an awful crippling in recent times. You know, for farmers, the creamery is gone, the local post offices is gone, the local pub is gone. So people are craving social places to meet up. I mean, there's some of my customers and they don't meet each other till they meet each other here again. Because there is no other place to meet.
I suppose we're changing it now to the pubs are kind of diminishing a bit, and we've a lot more hair salons and barbers now, so maybe instead of drinking they just want to look very good.
Well, probably.
Okay, there's 16 barbers in Abbeyfeale.
Down Killarney Road, Betty's. Isn't it Betty O'Donnell's?
The Good Hair Company.
So you've Shadows, Trinity Locks, the Golden Scissors.
You've got Fuchsia, you've got Marion Lines, then you've got me.
Norma's.
There's Rock, Hair, Scissors. I don't know, there's loads.
Golden Scissors, I was thinking rock, paper, scissors. And
Florrie the barber. And there's another barber up the main street as well. I can't think of it.
Uppercuts.
Just cut and curl, Anne's hair salon.
We've got Eugene's.
And the other hair salon across the road. Oh, Nicola's Barbers. Jesus, I'll be shot. That's everyone's, I think.
And you wonder how are they all able to, in a small town like this, all have so many clients.
So we all love to look beautiful. That's why we need them all.
Absolutely.
Have you yet to see a bad hair day in Abbeyfeale?
Like, I get my hair done every single week. It's my treat to myself. And if you don't do it, no one else will.
And it's one of those things that people don't recognise about hair salons, and I see it on a very regular basis. Sometimes if we're running a little bit behind, and I would say to a client, I'm going to be 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late or whatever, they'll usually say, oh, take your time, I've plenty of time today. You know, it's been a busy, hectic week getting kids back to school or whatever. But the problem is that they forget in the loving of the others, they forget to love themselves. So often coming in here is as much to do with doing nothing. It's as much to do with spending that bit of time alone, getting their hair done, you know, reading the magazines, having a cup of coffee, not answering their phones, you know, as creating space for that kind of self-love.
What was it? The Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Yeah, that was my favourite kids programme. And I just thought that's a cool name. So I went with Trindylocks instead of Goldilocks.
Oh, yes.
Because I was going to go with Kathleen's. But like, Jesus, I said
That's too boring for you, Kathleen.
put a bit of... No, couldn't go with that.
Couldn't go with
Although I did get a lot of phone calls saying, do you change locks?
Because my own name is Nicola. And I just said then at least Nick is shop then for Nicola, and that's what everyone always calls me. So I said that's why I opened my own shop then and called it Nick's Barber. Because everyone that comes in, usually they're kind of unsure is it male or female that's in here. Now, Fergal, what are we doing today?
Can I have a fade? And
starting with one and working up.
Yeah.
And do you like the top kind of long? Am I cutting so much off the top?
Yeah,
And
a
the
tiny
sides.
Yeah, and a tiny trim off the top.
And what about the fringe?
Yeah.
Keep the fringe long or keep it?
Keep it long.
I think it's a good
It's good because the boxing gloves and like.
I think it's
Because
good.
you cut your hair and uppercuts are like boxing.
I think it's good if
things.
they only did mohawks in this place, because then it's upper cuts. So they cut it upper.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's one style that I like, and it's probably CR7. Just so if anybody don't know who CR7 is, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Are we doing the usual?
Yep.
Trim around the sides, half fade, and okay, not a bother. How are you today?
Good.
How's school?
Good.
Good?
Yep.
How's the girlfriend?
Good.
Good. There's that smile, look. So have your parents met her yet?
They have, yeah.
And?
They like her.
They like her?
Yeah.
Have you met her mum and dad?
No.
I know her dad, he's about 6'4", he's built like a bus. Very, very, very violent man, but you'll get along great, I'm sure.
A skin fade will be the most common now, and long fringes, and really a lot of your friends had it, so you want to be, and you think it looks nice, so I asked her there, could she do it, and she said, yeah, no bother.
It's just a fashion, do you know, it's important to keep up with the trends. I enjoy it, I don't know, I enjoy it myself, kind of getting my hair done and getting kind of dressed up and stuff. Yeah.
We were humming and hawing for ages. We were putting different names together, like making up things and putting them together and everything. And we were like, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And my sister Eddie they were playing that game at the time in school, rock, paper, scissors. It was a big thing. And she was like, obviously it was on her mind. She was like, why don't you, she just taught us scissors, like, why don't you use that? So we did. And sure, we never looked back.
Because they cut and they curl. If you don't turn that off, I'm going to burst.
I suppose highlights and hair colours and stuff. And I suppose I like to come in here to do the highlights myself, you know.
My first hair salon down in Church Street was a salon called Great Lens. And then after a while I kind of got sick of that and I felt I'm going to put my name over the door. So it became Billy Man Hairdressing. And when we moved up here 11 years ago, I fancied something new. And the salon was always about good hair and good company. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to call the salon the Good Hair Company. I think the Good Hair, Good Company might have been a bit too much, so... And I'd run out of space on the wall anyway.
Something like this?
Yeah. So it's very similar to the last time, isn't it, here at the back of it? It's very similar to what we've been doing before we cut it up.
Or just hairstyles that I've been Googling on Pinterest that I thought might look good on me. But I have to take a couple of them because
so that he gets the idea of what I really, really want.
Oh, it all depends about, literally, if a celebrity does something, like when Kim Kardashian dyed her hair platinum blonde, we have people coming in, I want to be platinum. These are people with hair as black as my jumper, I want to be platinum blonde next week. Your hair would fall out. People come in because they see like Kylie Jenner got a bob cut, oh, I want that. And then they come in a few weeks later, my hair, why is my hair short? Because you got it cut like this, because you were trying to follow a trend set by a celebrity or set by some movement that's happening. Which really happened with, it really happened with balayage and stuff. Look how much that took off when all the celebrities started it.
And the platinum grey and everything, sure, Jesus, does you once now. And they're like badgers gone. Badgers.
Helen Mirren is kind of the woman I saw with this hairstyle first, and I thought, yeah, she looks nice for her age, so I decided to go with it.
It's a Nova Del hair salon. They've named it after my mom and dad, so it's just part of their names, which is Villa Nova, so we got a part of my dad's name, and Della Riza, which is part of my mom's name, so we just took part of their names and made it Nova Del because we just said we'll name it after them.
No, definitely they would never name over the store. Flurry is known in the 32 counties in Ireland. And everybody knows Flurry's name.
Lads, I was very disappointed. I was away there for a while and lads told me he wasn't cutting hair any longer. Christ, I got an awful shock. But then sure I heard after he was cutting it shorter. So I was back in the action again.
We had great fairs and markets here years ago, but they're gone out of town now. They come from all over the country here, buying calves, but it's gone now. Too much traffic now on the streets, like, you know.
I don't know what year that statue was erected with Father Casey. Around the time of the famine, wouldn't it? Yeah. People that were in trouble, like, to know, I looked after them.
When the big multinationals came, the small shops are finished. Yeah, like all small towns.
It's all right, I like it. I've always been used to Abbeyfeale. Yeah. It was always my town. But the shops, I mean, you can't buy a pair of knickers here now. No.
We really happy over here in this town. Actually, it's good town for we.
I was asked by a friend of mine, he says, Wilbur, are you sure you're ready to open the salon in a location like Abbeyfeale? And I said, yes, why? He says, no, are you sure it's not just your gut feeling in prayer and your belief in prayer that you're opening up the salon? So I said no, but basically it was our gut feeling in prayer that actually, the both of us, that we actually opened this up because I did not want to carry on the conversation with him. But yes, today the salon is doing pretty decently well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for this.
Like, you can come in at any time and she's very helpful. She'd always squeeze you in even though she's up the walls anyway. And she'd always say, no, come in, we do it. And you can be guaranteed, like, she'd do it.
She's my aunt, so she's my auntie, so I'd be in trouble if I didn't, but no. I'd be in trouble. Yeah, I'd be in trouble. Yeah, but no, the only one I come to.
Well, I suppose every time I come in, I don't exactly have to tell her what I want, and she knows exactly what I want, and she just goes away and cuts it, and she's perfect in the end of it. You know?
He's willing to chat up all the women, you know, he knows how to...
To them, Mary, to them. My wife could be watching this.
Sorry.
To them.
She's the biggest rogue, the biggest troublemaker. But behind it all, she's a nice girl. And she does the hair fab. Oh, that can't be pushed on TV. Maybe she I saw her. Would you not go up to that lady? Oh,
As I say, I was coming into this barber since I was the height of a grasshopper with my father. We're on to Flurry with a long time to get a kettle and a teapot just to make us one cup of tea. But he says the tea bags are expensive. Simple as that.
You know, these are still young, so they want to learn about what's new, and like the balayage now, and that's the newest thing that's out there now is that other colour, you know, the darker colour. You're learning new all the time, and
new products and
new
all the-
products,
all the-
exactly.
yeah.
I don't think any of them has the up-to-date equipment that Flurry has, like, so, you know, we have to, that's why we come in here, you know. It's for He has, if you look up there on the notice board there, there's turf. You could buy turf. You could buy anything in here. Look at you, get the numbers for the lotto, anything at all. He's everything up there.
I start the morning at 10 o'clock and I have people in. I enjoy interacting with people and talking to them and meeting different people, and we'll be talking about holidays and where they'll be going, and then they'll be telling me about their holiday when they come back.
You start off just like, say, coming in, getting the hair done. And in the matter of a couple of appointments, you seem to know everything about each other. Like, you know everything about your hairdresser. I was at Norma's wedding 7 years ago. I know her husband, I know her 2 children, I know all her family. Do you know, so that's what happens, you just get to know people.
We have a nothing off limits rule here.
Nothing off limits.
Everything get discussed inside here.
Farming always comes into it, and this is the weather and what we want on our own town. And
Maybe who's fighting with who?
That's true.
Yeah.
We feel a lot of gossip done in the hairdressers.
Mary, current affairs.
Everything is trashed out in the hair salon. From
everything.
But it isn't just beauty, like it's life in general. It's politics, it's sex, it's marriage, it's divorce, it's everything is discussed. And it's great, like, really.
Now, William. Thanks a million.
Thank you very much. It's perfect.
No. Thanks a million. No, that's fine.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a million. Talk soon.
So what's new in your life?
Not an awful lot.
All good?
All good, thank God. How's things with you?
Sure, look. I'm flat to the boards, thanks be to God. The wife is still giving out to me, so that's a good sign.
Sure, that's good. At least you know
That's a good marriage.
You know she's there.
She's there.
Yeah.
How long are you married now?
I'll be 40 years the 14th of July.
That's a lifetime.
Which sort of fucking me to murder would be out twice.
Funny now, you should put murder and marriage in the same sentence.
Well, mine stayed with me 30 years. That wasn't so bad. And then some lady came to buy a pony. She took the horse.
She took the stallion.
Yes.
Did you know that there was 3 rings in marriage?
One.
Did you know that?
Ah,
Well, you start off with the engagement ring,
okay.
then you have the wedding ring,
That's 2, yeah?
and then I have 40 years of suffering. So, you add it all together.
Oh, in fairness, it's an institution for the insane, really. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You really want to have a little bit of insanity in you.
Marriage is grand and divorce is 10 grand. Isn't that what they say?
At least I go anyway now. Most of the time, years ago, they stayed because they had to. Isn't that true?
There's a lot more options for people around now.
There was actually
There is
couple,
way more options.
There was actually
too.
a couple in a neighbouring village, and they lived together for 50 years, I'd say. And when they wanted to talk to each other, they talked to each other through the dog. They hadn't spoken a word to each other for years. This is true. The postman told me. And when you'd ask him a question or you'd tell him anything that she needed to know, he'd tell it to the dog. And she'd hear it, and vice versa. They were in awful trouble when the dog died. Because the new dog didn't understand. But that was a fact. Imagine living like that all your life.
When a client walks in the door, you can nearly tell how they feel. And, you know, when you wash their hair at the sink, you can actually even feel from their head if they're stressed or if they're relaxed, or their scalp gets tighter when they're stressed. And, you know, you just know how they're feeling, if they're tired or, you know, so.
No, it is a form of therapy, really. It is, of course. Yeah, it is. You're sitting and you're just looking at your own reflection for that little time. And you're figuring out, okay, I'm pale. Is that because I didn't sleep well last night? And you're questioning why you're looking the way you're looking. And it is giving you time to look deeper in yourself, really.
When you think about it, you know, we're touching your head all day.
Yeah.
Same with the hair salon and stuff. You're physically touching a person. You know, so I mean, that's a serious bond between two people.
Mm-hmm.
We do get to hear a lot of people's problems and people losing people to cancers, car crashes, suicides. Well, you don't regard them as problems, they're just friends sharing their issues with you more than their problems.
Sometimes you can share yours with them.
Oh yes,
Do you know?
absolutely.
Because sometimes if there's something bothering you,
They know us so well at this stage that
do.
they know straight off that we're not.
yeah.
You know, I always believe there's a book in everybody. I really firmly believe that. And you know, if you take the time to listen to people, it just blows your mind with what you hear.
I had finished up here on the Saturday. I was taking a week's holidays, and myself and my daughter were going up to Rosscarbery in Cork for the week. So we left. I pulled her out of school early. She was 8. So I pulled her out of school on the Wednesday. Yeah, on the Wednesday, yeah. And we went up to Rosscarbery on the Wednesday. Had a great night that night around the beach and stuff. And on Thursday, it was a miserable, wet day. So we were going to go and find somewhere to do something indoors. So on our journey to finding somewhere, a car came across the road and ended up crashing into us. 2 guys came along and had to pull me out of the car, and I remember handing Zoe over. I remember her being beside me, and I lifted her up, and as I lifted her up, she fell through my legs, but I assumed she had fainted. So I handed her to the guy that was outside the door. He took her, and another fella had to lift me out of the car. But it turned out that she actually died. She died instantly on that day.
Yeah, I lost a daughter. She was only 9 years. That's 1992. Road accident. And I was in the river fishing when that happened. So you're still recovering from that, like.
It's very tough.
You know, you can run forever. One thing you can't do is hide. You know, she was better in her first early communion dress.
God almighty.
When you lose someone in the way I lost Zoe, your mind plays so many tricks on you. You know, anytime you feel happy, you feel guilty.
Yes.
You know, anything that makes you smile, all you're thinking is, oh, I shouldn't be smiling now. You know, and to have that kind of reiterated into you that, look, that's okay, you can smile. But I suppose the biggest thing was I did hit rock bottom. You know, I took an overdose and I wanted to die. Like, I wanted to die and I didn't. Like, the doctors can't believe the amount I took that I didn't, you know.
Is that because you felt you wanted to
I wanted to be with her.
You wanted to be back with
Yeah.
her.
Suicide side of things is an awful thing to do, but nobody understands a person's mind when they're doing it. You think you're doing people a favour.
Yes.
You know, it's like, yeah, they'll be sad for a bit, but look, at least life can go on from. That's what's going through in your head, which is, you know, it doesn't make sense.
I remember the evening that it all came to an edge. We had a floor mat. It was maybe 4 foot by 2 foot. And it had to be cleaned. There was a fellow up the road from us working out of a garage, and he used to clean the mats. So I took it up to him early in the day, and he cleaned it, and I brought it down. It was a bit damp, and Mary said to me, she said, put it out in the line. So I put it out in the line, and I secured it well. And I think, she said to me, she said, that won't stay up there at all. So just like a flash, like a flick a light switch, I cracked. I left the house. I was gone, I suppose, for 3 or 4 days. Sleeping inside in the forestry. But if I had a piece of rope that evening, it was all over. I would be talking now anyway, that's for sure.
You know, I lost my son through suicide like at 19, you know. I ended up like, I found my young lad and that was terrible as well, you know. I didn't want, you know, anyone to see him, doctors or ambulance or anything else. Just the shame kind of I felt in a way, you know what I mean? And you feel responsible, like, you know. But it's an awful shock, like, you know. My lad was missing for a day and a half, 2 days, and I went before I could, you know what I mean, find him, like, you know. It's not easy. And I was talking to him, he'd only, the day of his death, or the day of the tragedy, he had just gone into the Killarney himself, and he had just paid his fees and all for his college and everything going to Dublin, you know. And we seemed to be happy about it all, and he'd gone away working for the summer on the buildings to earn that money himself. And I had asked him, I said, did you get your place in Dublin? I did, he said, and I have it paid for. And I was delighted. I said, that's great, like, you know. Little did I know, a half an hour later, he was, you know.
I think men have a very tough way of talking to people. You know, I find that myself, like, I mean, I'd be very tough as in crying-wise, I wouldn't, you know, but eventually something breaks you, like, you know, and it feels good to too, in a way, you know, it just helps, you know, because not every person is made of stone, like, you know, everyone has a heart at the end of the day, like.
I suppose just a moment of madness. So I said it was about time I went and got a bit of counselling, and thank God, I'm here to tell the story, you know. But it was hard. It was a hard 20 years.
Like, I always believed that there was a reason she was put on the earth. She wasn't here forever, because she's such a strong spirit, like. There's so many signs she always leaves me. I remember going on our first holiday after she died, and I felt awful going on holiday. It's like, I shouldn't be doing this. It's about 2 years after she died. I was like, I can't go on holidays, this is awful. And they convinced me to go, and I remember getting my boarding sheet, do you know, the sheet on it, and my seat number was 20E, but written down it looked like ZOE. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was just bonkers, like, it literally looked, and I remember saying, okay, you're okay with this, I can go on holidays. That, you know, it just...
That was another little message.
That was another, and that's what she does. I always feel like she guides me in the right way.
It's just little hints, do you know? Like, I was in bed one night, and Mary was actually out with her friends, out having a drink. And there did a light appear in the corner of the room. But it was only for 5 or 10 seconds, but it seemed to be for ages and ages. So there was Christmas Day, and I put an extra plate out on the table, unconsciously. And I had the food and all on the plate, and the wife says to me, she says, you have a plate extra. It just dawned on me then, like that. Why did I do that? You know? Kind of a strange one, like.
Well, the dreams, in a sense, you know, what they call them, they was just so alive, like, and the fact that, you know, he'd come back and they'd be so real. And I find myself, you were hugging him and everything, and everyone was happy he was around and he was smiling, if you know what I mean, you know. And he was all the time smiling. I could never, you'd look at him and you wouldn't even say it, where were you? And, but, you know, and it was kind of a different dream, that he was younger in the dream and that he was gone missing and he came back. We could never understand, like, you know, where we could never find him or know where he was. And he just reappeared with smiling as he always did, you know. It was like probably whatever in your head was telling you that he was happy wherever he was, you know what I mean? That kind of way, that's what I think about it, you know. Feeling a bit better.
It's good to talk about, that is it.
Oh yeah, always is. I don't mind talking now, like, anyway, you know what I mean? It was years ago it used to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go back into the moment, that kind of thing.
Correct.
And I do definitely believe that they take all the good ones first.
I always say that, the good goes first.
People that die young and things like that, I think it's because they're always the nicest of people.
Always, yeah. They are indeed. That's life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's life.
You can move on with that as well.
Yeah. So tell me, you were in Carlingford for a hymn night.
I was in Carlingford for a hymn night.
And you enjoyed it?
It was actually the best place I've ever been for a hymn night.
Where are you going tonight that you're doing the hair? Newcastle West or somewhere? Newcastle West?
I'm not good, would you believe? I don't know, Tim was in Mexico, so he's only home today, so we might go somewhere.
Oh, Mexico, very nice.
Tomorrow night, no, in Abbeyfeale.
In Abbeyfeale?
Yeah. It's gone very quiet, like.
Is it really?
They're all getting the green bus now to Killarney.
Like myself, I would only go out in Listowel or Newcastle or Killarney. Like none of my friends ever go out in Abbeyfeale because there's nowhere's open past 12 or 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and we often get taxis back to Killarney. Now, I should be going this weekend, but I'm not going. There's a few of them, they've hired the bus, they're heading back for the night, for the match.
I suppose we possibly get tickets to the match. You have no what you call it, have you? You have no pull. You have no pull. No, that's fine. I said I'd ask. I am. I'm looking for. Well, if we got one, we take it. But we're anxious to go.
Oh, and have you any pull at all?
Well, Liam would work all right, and Padraig in the job he has, but I don't know. There's a pile looking for him myself.
I hope they'll do well in Limerick. They're very good, great bunch of men, well trained and everything.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic, to be honest. I was delighted for him, you know. It was nice to see it, you know. Nice to see Limerick doing it for a change, you know.
When everyone is in good form, the whole community, you can feel it in people. But then when something happens in the town, it affects the whole town as well.
Traditionally, this was a very spiritual parish. Abbeyfeale was famous because there's one of the two towns in Ireland with the greatest number of vocations.
I was never a person for mass. Even as a child, I did not like going to mass. I believe in God. I believe in life after death. I believe that, like I say, my granddad is there watching over me. I believe he is the man that's my guardian angel. But I would not go to mass.
I think some people are religious, but they're not spiritual. But I think they're religious I think especially in Ireland, with the Catholic thing, that they feel like they have to go to church and they have to do these things, because if they don't, something terrible is going to happen. And, you know, I think spiritual is a very different thing. It's nobody forces you to be spiritual. It's your own soul feeling.
I have spoken to people about this, and some people say, oh, that's in your head, that's in your imagination. But no, I think if you're open to these things and you let it in and you believe it, then, you know, things happen.
I suppose I would have certain situations in my life, you know, that have happened over the last few years, you know. I suppose my grandmother was a big influence in my life, you know. And I do believe, I think she's looking down on me, on the road and stuff, you know. When I'm driving the road, I firmly believe she's with me all the time, you know.
About 8 years ago, when my partner was tragically killed and it was his funeral, you remember this, Maria?
Yeah.
My daughter was 13 months old and my son was at his grandparents' house, and we were outside our house while the hearse was passing, and we were, to be honest, I didn't know my head from my elbows. Like, I was in a bad place. And myself and Maria were there, my sister, and Maria was holding my daughter Caitlin, who was, as I said, only a baby, and she was waving, Caitlin was waving at the hearse saying, "Daddy, Daddy," while smiling, wasn't she, Maria?
Yeah. We just knew that she was seeing Daddy, as in, she wasn't seeing a hearse and a coffin. It was just totally different. She wouldn't have known. She was 13 months anyway. She wouldn't have known anything about Daddy being in a coffin or anything like that. But she just started smiling and waving down at the bottom of the road while the hearse was passing, and she was saying, "Daddy, Daddy," and she was in a really good place. Like, it was like comforting to know that he was there with her.
I was up in Dublin. It was the start of December. Friends of mine flew back from England. It was a girlies' weekend. So we had a concert on the Saturday night, and we said we'd just go out in Temple Bar on the Friday night for a few sociable drinks. Of course, that led to, we ended up in the Dubliner, I think, above there. Is it the Dubliner, the name of it, yeah? Until 4:30 in the morning. Great night out. So then we had the concert on the Saturday night, and we finished up in Copperface Jack's. That was at 6:30 in the morning. So I got back down to Abbeyfeale at around 8 o'clock Sunday night. Went to bed. I woke up in the morning, and it was like in the early hours of the morning, and it was like there was a shadow standing over me. But I just put that down to 2 nights of heavy drinking up in Dublin.
Just when people die, like, I believe when someone dies belong to us, like, that they do go to heaven, and you know that we will meet them again, I suppose, you know. That's why when you see like robins or butterflies, I'd always think that they remind me of somebody like maybe close to me that would have passed away.
The butterflies, well, I always feel butterflies are kind of past and present customers, and hereafter who's above from our own family, and there's always an element of just nice and ease when I see a butterfly. Just feel very close to them.
Not a lot of people know this, that, go on and listen to your way camera. Jesus was on a cross, and they put a kind of pokey crown on him, but robins came over, just plain brown robins, and then they picked out the thorns, but then they weren't just brown, they turned red. They had a little red tummy because one of them got a little needle sticking in. The blood made the inside kind of turn red, and then they all had that because that bird passed it on.
So I just remember when I was younger, my great-granduncle Bill, he had a great love for birds and for robins in particular, and it was just funny because I remember on the day of his funeral, just as the priest was saying mass, a little robin hopped in between everyone's legs, and it was just coincidence like.
To me, if something happens coincidentally, I believe that like things happen for a reason and there is somebody looking out for me. So it's not a coincidence that's happening for,
It's interesting.
you know.
Like the guiding hand.
Yeah.
I go with the flow. If something happens or something meant to be, it'll meant to be, and that's it. I strongly believe in what's for you won't pass you.
Perfect. My friend came over to me 2 years ago, and she put me on a dating site, and I was totally against dating sites. And because I don't go out, she said, the 2 reasons why I come over, Jar, is because I hadn't seen you in ages and put you on a dating site. And when I tell you I met some interesting characters on this dating site, But I met my fiance, who I'm now marrying, in 5 months. So I believe that happened for a reason.
For a lot of the time, obviously, I was saying, you know, I wish I died and she didn't. But then that's selfish too, because we were so close. There was only me and her.
Yes.
Her dad wasn't on the scene. So if I had died and she'd survived, she'd be going through what I'd be going through now.
And that would be difficult as a child.
Yeah.
It would probably be much more difficult as a child.
So, like, you think, why did God do this? But in my opinion, the way I think of things is, that day the devil comes and does his work. And God's way of righting wrongs is like with Zoe dying, he takes her to a heavenly home and gives her the most amazing world. And like that time, whereas it's not God that does the nasty things, it's the devil. This is just my way of thinking about things,
Without belief and something to look forward to, life is meaningless, isn't it? I live in hope that we meet up in the next world. And I do believe I will.
I'd imagine one of the times that was probably one of the worst periods in my life was when I was going to boarding school, that I was the subject of some really hardcore bullying by a guy at the time. And fragile enough period of time when you're starting to grow as an adult, you're starting to step into your own understanding of life. And I think at that stage, that particular time wreaked a lot of havoc on me, you know, psychologically or whatever. And I suppose over time I think it just grew as a shadow inside of me. There was about 6 months there that I genuinely thought I wasn't going to make it to 20. Just didn't think I was just going to make it to 20. And through spirituality, through psychology, through counselling, through whatever, tried all the avenues to find the answer. But that was all the time I was looking out there for the answer. The answer, my experience wasn't out there, my experience was in here.
I just think that the trials and errors of life are all about growth, and I sometimes think there's actually no growth without suffering.
And like I said about this chap when I was going to boarding school, there was a time I often thought about reaching out and seeing if I could find him. But I decided no, you know, if our paths have to cross, they'll cross. We'll figure that out in time. But there's nothing to forgive. You know, at the end of the day, when you look at the fact that this man, when he was a teenager, was trying to figure his own shit out too.
There is no place for hate in this world. Definitely not. If you're having love for yourself, for your surroundings, for your fellow man, and for life, you're just not going to survive.
What's it feel like to be in love? From your perspective.
Happy.
Okay, happy like watching a comedy and laughing away, or is it different?
Like, do you know the saying, butterflies in your stomach?
It's what makes a person as well. You know, I mean, you know, I suppose a house can't stand with just one wall, you know. And I suppose you have to find someone. I mean, you've love in different aspects of love with a friend, you know, love of a family member, and love of like a girlfriend or a wife. It's all different types. Like, I suppose you need it. It's what makes the world go round. You know, everything you ever think of, Christmas, you know, Valentine's Day, you know, even like funerals or weddings, everything is love. Like, you know, even every song ever made is about love. Like,
the greatest experience in life is love. There's nothing more profound than the experience of love. Thank you.
So we hope Limerick will do the job now soon.
Please God.
Yeah. Right, Brady. No.
It's still teeming out of the heavens.
It's still raining away. Oh, good God, don't go out a while. Oh, you'll be around.
Like that and we're coming in.
Jesus, you'll be around. Can you wait for a few more minutes? It might lighten.
But you know, some people crave love from other people and feel that they need the love of other people. I think the most important thing is that you love yourself. And once you love yourself, you can give off an aura of love to anybody that surrounds you.
Most people aren't born loving themselves. And through the way we're raised or whatever, or even our history, maybe Irish history, going back to the famine and all that, I think we have a tendency to beat ourselves up and to blame and to criticise. And all that is like self-condemnation, really. You can't really love somebody unconditionally until you love yourself unconditionally first.
Yeah, perfect, yeah. Yeah, perfect, thanks, Billy.
No, Mary. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you. It is what I want.
It's supposed to be very bright, but no sun out, I think.
No sun. We do got the sun. We do got the sun.
It isn't too bad. We're lucky enough around here. I think it's bad up the west. I think they're getting a lot of rain.
It'd be a lovely day for a barbecue.
Yeah. Are you planning to have one this evening?
We leave the umbrella in the car.
The fantastic community spirit here. You know,
There
there's...
would be.
There would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Mighty community spirit here,
Yeah,
Abbeyfeale.
Like even say there now when my grandmother passed away, and you know, people came to the funeral, I suppose, because I work in the town, that, you know, I would have never expected to be there. But the lift and the way that would make you feel, you know, it's just such a nice thing.
It'll be wash and wear, essentially, is what I was aiming for. Yeah, and then I just put a few soft layers up there then, so it just to give it a little bit of volume so it isn't just dead flat. And I kept your jacket here. There you go, my love.
Like a new one.
No, last job of the day.
Well, I'm from Abbeyfeale. I grew up in Abbeyfeale, and I'd say my mother and father are sick of me because they haven't got rid of me yet. My other brothers and sisters have gone travelling, but I'm still at home. I suppose I just love Abbeyfeale, and I just think the people in Abbeyfeale are very friendly. You know, even you'd go on a night out and you'd never feel like you're on your own. You know, even you could go out with a few people and you'd end up chatting with other groups. You know, it's a nice town, like, and I like where I grew up, like, you know.